Hello, I am Patrick Barnard. It is January 11, 2024 in Montreal. A little short commentary on a book again. In this case, the book is A Day in the Life of Abed Salama by the American writer Nathan Thrall. It's a book that's famous by now, and it's interesting to make a comment about it on this historic day, January 11, 2024. At this very moment, the country of South Africa has brought a complaint before the International Court of Justice at The Hague in the Netherlands, a complaint of genocidal acts, and that complaint is against the state of Israel, which itself was a signatory to the 1948 Genocide Convention. Now, what does this book have to do with these events? I'll try to explain. Nathan Thrall is a Jewish-American activist. He's been living in Jerusalem for more than 10 years, working on reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians. He's a very deep critic of what he calls a system of segregation in the West Bank and elsewhere in Israel. A Day in the Life of Abed Salama is the story of a traffic accident, of the death of 6 Palestinian children more than a decade ago, a death that resulted, in Thrall's view, because of the terrible sort of segregation that Palestinians endure in the West Bank and elsewhere in Israel. The book is based on a huge number of in-depth interviews that Thrall conducted, and it had a tremendous impact. The Indian writer Arundhati Roy talked most eloquently about the brutality, the steely tenderness, the pathos of the book. And these are her words. She says that it supplies, quote, the sheer spectacle of the cunning and complex ways in which a state can hammer down a people and yet earn the applause and the adulation of the civilized world for all its actions, close quote. This book, in its own very unusual way, it's an anatomy of an accident, in its unusual way, levies a form of accusation against Israeli policy towards the Palestinians. Thrall's view is that those children died in that accident many years ago because of the way the road system and the social system has been organized in the West Bank. And I'm going to select 2 figures from the book to tell you about. The first is Danny Tirza. He is a very unusual man. You see his picture here in an Israeli television interview. He warned in February, in fact, that something was going to explode in Israel. He's very prescient about that. But he's best known as the strategic planner of the Israeli army in the West Bank, and he is the man who built the networks of roads and barriers and walls which have confined Palestinians in the West Bank for so many years. The very system that Mr. Thrall blames for the death of those children. The other person that appears in the book is a very, very unusual doctor. Her name is Huda Dabur, and her son was arrested more than 10 years ago for throwing stones. And she was also, as a doctor and an UNRWA official, she was present at the accident that Thrall describes, the accident that is at the center of this book. When she saw her young son arrested a generation ago, she had a shocking experience of going to a military court and seeing that her son had been tortured. And he raised his shirt. He was only about 16 years old. In the courtroom, the judge was bellowing and shouting, but it left a huge, huge scar on Huda's consciousness. And that is part of the book. At the end of the book, Thrall talks about his 3 daughters who had been born in Israel. And he says that he hopes for them that the system of segregation he describes in the book will no longer exist when they grow up. Now, he has recently indicated, it seems to me, that he's most likely going to leave Israel. Why? Because he's thinking about the future of his own daughters.